Welcome
Sure.
everyone. Good morning, good afternoon to you all. So let's quickly share the screen and set the context quickly here. So the context here is that I'm an applicant. I'm a candidate, and we want to contrast what used to happen prior versus what used to happen earlier. So I go into a customer's job board, that's their candidate portal, or I come across this position in one of my favorite platforms such as Indeed, ZipRecruiter, etc. And I say, oh, this is a very nice position. I want to apply to it. And then I go ahead and apply to it. In this case, I've just applied to this position right while we were waiting. But I look at the position and I just click on apply to it. Or if I want to apply to a different position, I see, okay, this is a good position. I feel that I'm a good match for the requirements. And then I go ahead and apply to it. I say, yes, I want to apply to it. In this case, because I've already applied to that position, I'm going to focus on that position. And now I see that I have an interview requirement, even though I just applied to it a minute ago, right? So that's good. So I have an interview. I don't really know how I'm doing, but I'm going to go ahead and look at this. I'm going to start an AI assessment that I've been invited to. So, so bear with me. You guys will all be hearing as I make up some story about being a marketing manager. I'm not a marketing manager, but I'm just gonna make up some story and say how it is, and we'll kind of all experience. And I won't really do the full 15-minute interview in interest of time, but we'll all kind of experience just what it looks like. So just bear with me for the next minute and a half while you see this interaction. And I can tell you this looks a little slow when you watch it. I've seen other people do it, looks a little slow, but for the candidate, that's the experience we're right now focusing on. All right, I'm ready. Let's go ahead and start the interview.
Great. Let's begin. First question. Can you describe your experience with developing and implementing digital marketing strategies to achieve business goals?
Okay, so I have done quite a bit of the digital marketing work. I usually start with creating a campaign based on the overall business objectives, then using the channels that we are using in that particular organization. Either we'll create a Google AdWords campaign, a LinkedIn campaign, an outbound email campaign, etc., whatever the case may be. And then we will run the process for at least a little bit of initial duration to see if our original hypothesis about the audience is validated. Then we'll run it for a longer duration, maybe coupling with some A/B tests to see if we are hitting the overall objectives. But that's the overall process we'll follow, and that's also is my own experience in the 3 different organizations that I've been a part of, where I have followed this particular process here.
Thank you for your response. Would you like me to proceed with the next question?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Second question. Could you share your experience with managing and optimizing online campaigns across various platforms?
Okay, so the different platforms that I have experience with is Google AdWords. I've also used the Yahoo Bing ads. They have now consolidated one, as well as LinkedIn, as well as email outbound platforms. There are also other platforms that we will use in addition to it, but those are the major platforms where we'll do the advertising spend. In each case, they give us different metrics, such as the overall cost per click, cost per impression, usually 1 million impressions, 1,000 impressions, depending upon their platform. And then overall, what we'll be trying to see is if we are hitting our desired numbers either on revenue, which is typically used in retail, or in sales qualified leads, which is typically used in enterprise sales, but those are typically what we will be using.
Thank you for the detailed explanation. Would you like to move on to the next question?
Yes, please.
Third question. How do you use data and performance metrics to assess and optimize your marketing campaigns?
So normally we will use the metrics that are provided in that platform, such as cost per click, the impressions, the cost per impression, as well as the conversion rates. So platforms such as Google Analytics plus Google AdWords, they give us a way to mark our conversions, etc. Okay, at this point, I've just finished the assessment. So just in interest of time, even though it could probably have asked me about 6 or 7 more questions. So now what we'll see is that, okay, I have already completed this thing. At this point, I could get another email that says to me, well, we will see what it does, but I'm gonna see my mailbox once this finishes loading here, and it's probably is doing okay. So it says that my assessment is completed, gives me this whatever this confetti thing is, and I can see my application status, and I'm here. Now, okay, let me see this part here. Say something, okay, we appreciate your time in this step. The process team is currently reviewing, etc., etc. So, what is the main point I want to? And I want to now start with our overall webinar part here. But I just want to before we even jumped into that, I wanted to make sure that we could see clearly be contextualized here on why what we are even referring to here. And I must say that when we started this discussion, Doreen and I, as well as some of the other people that we've been speaking to, the big question that was in our mind was whether these AI assessments were going to be, whether from a candidate's perspective, there's a question in terms of whether they were fair or they were going to be losing the human touch, etc. That was sort of what we were going to discuss here. But as you already saw, the candidate experience is not necessarily bound by those particular considerations. And this is where I'll now invite my colleague here, Doreen, to also step in and kind of share her findings as we are kind of seeing this thing, and we'll all go through this journey together on what the new framework of this AI-based assessments is, what it means for candidates, what it means for recruiters, what it means for hiring managers, and what it means for the organizations overall.
Sure, Amrinder. I think this is such a timely conversation. Depending on what the organization seeks, the engagement strategy that they have, even from a candidate perspective, the kind of experience, the defined experience they want candidates to have when they encounter them during the interview process, AI could be used to support that process. So if an organization prides itself in saying our colleagues are or we value our employees, we're human-centered, we are, all the beautiful accolades that organizations say of themselves. I think it behoves on that organization to make that experience seep through right from the candidate process when when the potential employee is a candidate, to share that experience from there. And it's beautiful that we are exploring how we use AI or how AI might support in that process. So I would say first define the experience that you want candidates to have. And then once you've defined that experience, the next question would be, how do you use AI to support in the process? I think that's where I would want us to start our conversation from today.
Wonderful. So I know that while many people were still joining in, we kind of did a very quick mini demo of what this thing looks like. But now we can follow our agenda that we'll all be looking at together. And for the benefit of everybody who maybe was still dialing in, etc., we'll quickly show you a little snippet of what we did without kind of redoing that part entirely. This is the agenda we're going to follow. And just as we get started, we have our one and actually the only poll that we have today. So if you can just go ahead and take this particular question here, and we'll give like 20 seconds or so you can quickly respond so we can move on to the next item. But you should see a poll question pop up in front of your window right now. So please go ahead and take that as soon as possible so we can continue moving here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of results come in.
Okay.
Already 40%. So that's good. Thank you very much for everyone for, first of all, who showed up on time, joined on time, and is taking the poll quickly. We'll take like 5 more seconds. As soon as we get to 60%, we're gonna close. So please, if you have not taken a chance to respond yet, go ahead and respond so we can close this out. All right. Thank you, everyone. We got to 57. I think we'll take that. So I'm going to share the results here with you all, and I think so that way everybody can see what that looks like too. So essentially, Doreen, I don't know if these are any if
No,
these
I'm not
results are
surprised.
surprising you.
Not at all. 35% say they're already using AI assessment tools. And then we have another 18% saying it's imminent, it's in the offing. Another saying in the next 3 to 6 months. So coming in 2026, and no definite plans another 35. So this is not surprising because, of course, just like anything new, that you would have your early adopters, and then you'd have those who would want to continue with the methods that you're used to. Again, it goes back to defining the experience that you want candidates to have, and then thinking through, are there different ways of doing this, and in what way can I make it even more engagement filled or more user friendly for the candidates, and then you can explore the tools. So I'm not surprised, Amrinder, at the results. How are you?
I think we are. I'm definitely pleased that nobody said that no, and we don't plan to use. Nobody said that. I think people can see. I think maybe this is also a good time to understand and level set some of the things. For example, even in the brief demo that you saw for people who were already on, uh, if not, I mean, this is what we were referring to when a person is interacting with the AI agent, etc. I'll go back to the outline slide here, but first of all, I want to clarify that there is not as much perception from the candidate that they are losing the human touch. The reason being that they are still going to talk to one or two or three rounds of human interviews anyway. Rather, from the candidate's perspective, what we see that the customers are observing is that the candidate feels that my first interaction came right away. I applied, right? So I applied, I uploaded my resume, and all my education, employment, everything is there. It's already parsed. And it was now the candidate does not know if only they were invited or if everybody gets invited. But regardless, the candidate says, okay, a minute after I applied, I was invited to some kind of an assessment. And the assessment was 15 minutes, even though, as you saw, I only took that for about 2 minutes, and then I finished that interview. But they have already taken the first interview, and then after that, they get an invitation for selecting the time on the interviewers from the interview slots here. So from a candidate's perspective, the speed is really refreshing because many times people will apply to a position only to never hear back. By never, I mean 2 weeks. For example, for somebody who is very highly looking for a position right now, who is either on the bench or is looking to be on the bench, they're going to be, for them, 2 weeks is literally never.
Yeah.
For them to see that, hey, I already took my first interview, that's a positive thing. And also, they can also think of it this way, that they have a little clue to what the human interview panel is going to ask me. Now, there is also a lot of people who discuss. So there are two main concerns people have. One is that is going to lose human touch, and I say it's not true because this is just something you did right away, and the human beings are still going to come into play in your next round, which could be in a week. Rather, there's the speed, which is of good value. That's our advantage. And the second concern that sometimes people have is that somebody could cheat in the AI assessment. Now, let's suppose, now there's this all the AI versus AI jokes, right? So let's suppose that I wanted to cheat in that AI assessment. When it was asking me question, maybe I have some app or something and I go to Gemini to ask me what's the right answer. maybe I give the answer. And maybe the AI is fooled into thinking that, yes, this is a good fit, so we should attach a human person to it. And then if I say something that I'm not saying, hey, in your AI assessment, you said that you had experience with these things versus you didn't, I'm not sure it's an advantage. So it's not really a concern. It's not a real concern that people could have anyway. If somebody was not honest, they could have done that on their resume. They could have said something in email. Rather,
True.
here you're just having them say that on voice or on video, which is a much higher stakes. If I know I'm on a video call, even with an AI agent, I'm not going to say I worked for 3 years at IBM in the marketing division if I didn't. I know what's going to happen is it's going to get me an interview with Doreen. And then what will I say then? So I think that
Maybe
concern is
you don't
also
show up.
it's not going to help me.
You don't show up when
You
it's
know,
time for
then,
the interview. You just
then
decide
you
I
don't
will
show
show
up,
up.
right? So okay. So anyway, let's stick with our agenda. That we are observing that AI touches every stage of hiring. Efficiency gains are undeniable. The the undeniable efficiency gains are driven by our own ROI that we are seeing, which is
Yeah.
primarily 95% of those efficiency gains are in the recruiter time to review the resumes, do the initial match, and for the interviewers to do the interviews. If the interviews are cut down by X%, that's a clear ROI that almost no cost of your AI platform is going to ever be that expensive because the interviewer's time is most expensive. And the algorithms are constantly learning. Speed is a priority, as you can see. If the AI assessment can already say that this is a very good candidate, do you want to move forward with it? That's so speed becomes a priority not only for the candidate, but also for the organization because they want to find the right candidate. And the candidate who took the AI assessment right away versus who waited till the last possible time because either they were not available, which itself is something, or they didn't feel ready, which is also a clue. So you have a way to distinguish between candidates. So so again, the emerging question can be, is it just making us better or faster? But again, my hypothesis here is that it's actually better and faster from what we are seeing in the market. So Doreen, there are a few difficult questions that we're going to start getting into now. But again, just for the sake of benefit of all the people who joined a little later, what we did was we kind of, if I can share my screen again, if that's faster, we went into a candidate. We logged in as a candidate, applied for a certain position. We did that AI assessment, asked questions back and forth on voice or video. And what I did not show at that time was what was happening on the side of of the the recruiter platform, or the hiring manager. This is what they see, that this person, there's this position. Let me refresh my screen if I'm still logged in. I'm not. Let me go ahead and log back in actually. And let me log into the applicant tracking system portion of the ClayHR here. And I will go into the position that I was looking at, which was digital marketing manager. And we had this person come in. The system automatically gave them a match score, already scheduled an AI assessment for them, and already gave us a score that we are going to be able to see in a minute here. So this was a score that this person got from that. And we can now read it to see the candidate shows a basic understanding. For people who were observing me trying to be a marketing manager a few minutes ago, this is just a reflection of that, right? Yeah. Now communication was somewhat fragmented. So the AI assessment pointed out that the person cut the thing short. I only answered 3 questions and did this thing. Did not reflect well on me. And then if I can provide some specific results back. So again, so the AI agent is giving a specific thing because I was not, as you all know, I'm not a marketing manager, but I was just answering that question, pretending to be. So it could pick up on certain things here, even though I had prepared. But because I'm not, it was able to pick up some of that, and that's the candidate's own experience. So again, that's what we observed. Let's continue with this part here and discuss what are some of the difficult questions. But I think the easy part is that the AI automations are at least bringing us through here, that we can see the overall agent assessment details. We can create different agents. We can see their voice logs. We can see their text-based logs. What we do. And again, we see that there are a lot of, we are not coming into AI in talent acquisition new. Rather, AI in talent acquisition has been there for quite some time. People have been using, these are not new things that people will upload a resume, the ClayHR will create a summary for it, so that everybody is looking at the similar formatted summary irrespective of the resumes. So that part is straight. What we've already been using, the math score, how the math score is derived, and now this AI interview questions, etc. So there is a rich history of AI in talent acquisition, and now this AI assessments is one more tool in that particular toolkit here. But now the difficult questions that we should now start thinking is, how do we make sure that this is not going to create new forms of bias that we cannot easily picture? Or how do we make sure that the candidates don't feel that this is just I'm just added a new process in this thing, but it does not really benefit me. I think that's the questions we have here, but at least we're all looking at the same exact same exact framework for where we are here. Here are some immediate steps that I hypothesize maybe HR teams can take. But again, I think, Doreen, your insights on if these are going to be required and these are going to be sufficient, I think that's some things we now have to discuss here.
There is a question in the at what point do we answer the questions on the go?
We should. We should, because I think just so everybody can also follow, we structured the webinar in a very quick webinar way so that you could see all the context, and because ultimately it's all about the questions together. So please feel free to ask questions. We're gonna take them as we go, and we've left quite a bit of time to have all these heavy discussions here. You wanna take the first question? Yeah.
Absolutely. This one says, where is by an anonymous attendee, but it says, where in candidate communication do you think automation should stop completely? Oh boy, stopping completely. From where I sit, I wonder if it's a stop completely. I feel that AI, you use it to you can design the process, the engagement process with the candidate, and have a dual approach or a hybrid approach where you're combining the initial interview, AI doing it, the human interview, the culture interviews, you're doing all of that. But even when it's human, it's face to face or human to human, there's no denying the fact that AI has become a part of how we do things, as HR people, as talent acquisition, or even in development. It's throughout the life cycle of the employee. AI, like in other parts of life, it's supporting how we do things. So I wonder if it stops completely. I think it's used in tandem with what we do as talent acquisition people, and then or talent acquisition practitioners. So it's figuring how we use it to our advantage. We're using it in sourcing, we're using it in shortlisting, we're using it in the initial interaction, we're using it for assessments, and then we meet them. Let's say they're good. We're using it to even filter through our questions. There's a fit. We're using it for the initial phase where the hiring management process. So to the extent that AI has become a total part of our lives, I think completely removing it, I don't know if that's something doable. I think it's designing your blend or designing what you want to achieve and deciding what strategy works best for you. But there are a number of HRDs on this call, and we're great to hear their perspective in the Q&A area as well.
Right. And I think, yes, please, everybody, feel free to chime in if you have a possible answer as well. And, this is a very specific kind of webinar where we're inviting all the talent acquisition leaders in it. So if you have a specific point of view, many of the people I have worked with in the past in their own recruitment efforts. So while we were before the webinar, we were chatting with some of them. So please feel free to chime in. I will
Yeah,
answer this I will answer this question during this part slightly differently here as well. That let's suppose, like I've gone back into the application to see this is your candidate funnel. As you know, in ClayHR, this is a configurable funnel. This is what you create based on your own process. So let's suppose that you initially front loaded with AI because it went to AI very right away. I applied it. I immediately got screened based on a match score because the resume showed enough match. So that was AI. It brought me to the AI assessment, which I happily completed. I could have also declined it, and then I'm not sure what would have happened to my application, but I, as a candidate, was invited to it, so I completed it. So that took place via AI. AI assessments completed while we were watching the score. And maybe at this point, these two numbers plus the match score plus whatever the match score notes etc are, maybe we can say the automation can stop. Right? For the human being to now come in to say, okay, I see what we have here. I'm either going to proceed with this person's application or send them a regret letter or whatever, or say, yes, I want to schedule them to the next round of interview. And then the human beings can come in. And like Doreen was mentioning, after these interviewers are done, again, I will be able to view all the assessments here, right? And once I view all the assessments, then I can again use the AI's recommendation to say, should I go ahead, should I not? And once I start going into the offer letter, certainly the AI is going to review my offer letter, make sure that I don't have anything contradictory, etc. So I think that's why Doreen was also hesitating to say it's not going to stop completely, but it could be sufficient pause here to say the AI helped us do an initial assessment, and now we are able to do, now we are able to go back and do the human touch to it, review, and then go back to the review. So that's just a small point I wanted to suggest.
No, thank you for that. And looking at the question again, it's specific to automation. So I guess once we're thinking about it as automation, then just hearing your perspective is super important. I see someone has their hand raised, and that's Winifred Wapim. So Winifred, Winifred. Is there a way to enable Winifred?
There is. So I'm not seeing Winifred's.
Yeah, I see in the participant list, Winifred has their hand raised.
Winifred, if you would like to talk, you can talk as well. If I can just find you, I can enable the talk button for you. Okay, I see it.
Yes.
Winifred, you should be able to talk now.
Okay, hi everyone. Okay, so I'm just trying to put my submission in for the question we are trying to answer. My understanding was when that's the AI automation engagement stops with the candidate that is coming in. That's how I was going to understand it. And probably the AI actually helps with the process from beginning to the end. But with the initial engagement of the potential candidate, at which point does the human face or the HR person comes in, so that the AI engagement, when does it stop? And so where he mentioned that after he's done the assessment, the AI assessment, at that point, then he can have that response, whether it's going to be a regret letter or the human face actually comes in with probably an email, or you are proceeding to the next stage. We are going to now interview you. You're going to face A, B, and C because you've passed A, B, and C stage. So you are proceeding to the next stage. So that it's not like the entire process, the potential candidate is just meeting AI automation throughout the process and does not see anybody engaging with him or her for the process. It gets a bit frustrating if you're just responding to AI assessments and AI automation stuff throughout your selection or recruitment process. So at some point, there should be some engagement before probably the person knows, okay, I've been accepted, I've met a face, somebody I can engage with. But moving forward, I need to fill some forms or I need to give more information, and that will be done with some AI software, AI program. So we understand where we are and we have a sort of a human face to engage with the recruitment process.
Right.
Recruitment
I
is
think
You're absolutely
right.
right, Winifred. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
Winifred, Winifred, this just as you see in the funnel up on the top here. So this is pretty much right away. Once you will see here that as soon as the AI assessment is done, they're going to be speaking to the human people next anyway. They're going to be talking to the interviewers. They'll probably get a call from the recruiter as well. The recruiter will share with them whatever the progress their application is making. So I think there's very little risk in them not talking to a human. Rather, the perspective that we can all take is that this really just gave them an initial test almost immediately, and it gave them in an audio video way, as opposed to what they are more used to taking, such as maybe like an online assessment test where they're choosing the multiple choice questions. I think that is the most direct translation from the older process to the current process, or from the current process to the proposed process. Would you agree with that, Doreen?
No, I totally agree with Winifred's submission. And again, going back to the question, it's moving it away from, it's being specific to automation. And if we look at it as where do they connect with a human, then if we look at your example on the screen where you design the engagement process for the candidate, it starts with AI. It's automated if you think about it because it's designed, but the execution of it, like Winifred was putting out there, there's a point where it's human candidates to machine, for lack of a better word, but then there's a point where it's candidate and another human from within the organization. So absolutely beautiful submission, Winifred. There's a
Also,
second. All right,
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Do you want to take the second question from Shayan? I think Shayan, you've thrown us
Yes.
an easy question. Thank you, Shayan. I always love having you on the webinar. So Shayan's question for everyone's benefit is that would the candidates need a specifically structured resume for AI to be able to read? And the answer is no. In fact, we see thousands of kind of candidate resumes all the time. Every candidate is going to have their own formatted resume. They're going to put one or the other format, and the whole idea is the candidate summary is always going to be generated from it, plus their education, employment history that they're going to be generating from it, from that resume. So the resume has to be in no format. And I'm sure, Doreen, you see hundreds of different formats all the time.
Yeah, they are different ones, but Amrinder, you do know that some applicant tracking softwares would say uploaded either in a particular format. So I think it depends on the software or the tool, but some are very specific to say no tables, no images, upload in either Word format or upload in PDF. And so for those softwares that have a specific requirement, I think the great thing they do as part of the candidate engagement process is to be specific to say this is the format we would like it in. But I've seen that with Clay, irrespective of the format, the system goes through to generate a kind of summary. It's still, I mean, happy at the fact that it's now combining the summary, the summary of the resume with the initial assessment of the candidate, because then that gives a better indication. Because sometimes I see that the summary doesn't have the depth that you have loved. But if it's combining with something else to give a match score, then yes, absolutely.
Right. So yeah, in ClayHR, at least you don't need a specific resume format. You can use anything. Okay, so we're ready for more questions, but in the meantime, I will kind of read out sort of the checklist here for everyone's benefit too. So
Sure.
we recommend, at least every customer partner that I work with, we always recommend that just try to do as much of your standardization of your role requirements, evaluation criteria. So again, back into when you define your AI assessment agents in ClayHR, if I go back to the screen here again in a minute, where you do that in ClayHR, when you go to your automations and agents, just be as specific with what instructions, because ultimately your agent is just following your instructions. Just give as good instructions as you can. So that's again main point we want to make is that use the use as possible instructions as you can here. Review those AI assisted output for fairness, because sometimes the AI will give some output, but you should review it for clarity, fairness. Monitor some things that patterns, maybe the patterns change over time. And then of course, one thing we highly recommend to every single customer is that put the agent name in the email itself, that so they know, candidates know that they are speaking with an AI agent. Not that we think some candidates are going to be fooled by it, not at all, but you saying it directly comes much better. That you as an employer saying, even if you have created different AI assessment agents, that we want you to speak to Claire, who is going to be talking to you about marketing, and we want you to be talking to Winifred, who is going to talk to you about technology. At least mentioning that that's your virtual agent's name is very transparent, and it definitely highlights your commitment to that initiative in candidates' minds, and I think that's a positive thing. So I'm sure there are other things too, Doreen, that come to your mind.
I was actually going to open it up to the participants, especially those who've done this over and over again, or who started using it. The 35% that said they've already started using AI in the process, in the recruitment process. For you, what could we add to these steps to improve that fairness checklist? The one thing that comes to my mind, Amrita, and I guess it's my bias for being a West African, it would be nice to have customized tones and voices, so that it's more close to home for
Yeah,
the candidates than a robotic voice is one of the things that I feel would be a beautiful add-on to this product to the list, to say choose a voice that represents the applicant's field of experience, for instance, so that. But I'm curious to hear from the HRDs and talent acquisition experts on the call. What else might you want to add to this list to improve the AI fairness checklist?
yeah. And while we see any other questions that might be there,
No
the
questions
that
for now.
particular point that you make, Doreen, is spot on, and that's currently kind of in the works here. So you should be able to change the tone, some
Mm,
demeanor, besides just the instructions. So you should be
mm,
able to see that in the coming days on how exactly when you define your AI agent, you're able to give some more personality to it, include not just the instructions. So I think that's definitely something now that's imminent here. Also,
mm,
let's kind of also make sure that if people who have not started out using AI yet, we highly recommend that you start using AI in some small early hiring stages. Early hiring stages is much, much easier than anything further down, both from a legal perspective as well as from a benefit perspective, the business benefit perspective. Because initially, in the early stages where you have a much higher volume of resumes, etc. So when you are already seeing that your AI can do an initial clustering of resumes, that already helps you quite a bit because only you know what is your hiring, uh, what's the exact charter, how much time do you have to hire, how many people you're going to really be able to interview. So if your AI agent is already able to give you, from the 200 people who applied, 100 people or so who at least meet the minimum threshold, and you know you're only hiring two, you don't even have bandwidth to interview more than 20 people. Therefore, you know that at least your pool is now limited to these people, and then that helps you speed things up. So that's my first indication, first recommendation here, starting out small. Again, I think there is another um, there's a question here as well. I think that's very similar to what we were just talking. Maybe we address that first, Doreen.
Yes, yes. It says chatbots are now a first touch point for many candidates. What separates a helpful hiring chatbot from a frustrating one? This is akin to, and thank you for that question, but it takes me back to the days when you call the contact center for any organization and then you're on the you're on the what's it called, the VAR, right? It just keeps playing the same thing over and over again. For me, I think a frustrating one would be one that doesn't tie into the process. It's in any way. So you go through it and you can't tell. There's no feedback to the client, to the candidate on what this means or how it connects to the process and what next steps there is. Or where another frustrating example I can think of would be where the candidate expresses themselves. And in Amrinder's case, when the text was generated, say because of the intonation and how you sound, whatever you said is turned upside down. And you say, oh no, this is not what I said. And the chatbot goes, I don't understand you, or your session has ended. And you don't have an opportunity for to correct or for redress, you know. So I think that would be a frustrating one, and where the organization takes it without some kind of review, you know. So you see a candidate with a high initial matching score from their resume, but then suddenly the score from the assessment is super low. It's almost like matching your transcript to a final examination score. And I think the recruiter or hiring manager should get curious and just do a human check to see what's happening over there. So those would be the few examples that come to mind. But I'm curious, Amrinder, for you, what comes to mind on what frustrating chatbot experience might look like?
What I find is I try to use the 80-20 rule here, to say that if the chatbot did not even think that 80% of the questions got answered from the chatbot, the candidate doesn't feel that, they're gonna find it to be very frustrating. But if they see, for example, yeah, again, if we go back into the application, kind of start looking at the chatbot version of this thing, if the candidate's asking, or candidate has an expectation that I can ask this chatbot anything, but then the chatbot doesn't answer many of the questions, candidate is going to be frustrated. But if the chatbot says that, yes, while I understand your application is in review, etc., I'm here to answer any questions about the company culture, benefits, and such, candidate knows that this chatbot is offering me a certain things here. And then I can ask, is there a 401k plan? Is there a retirement plan? Do I get PTO package? What is roughly that package look like? And even if the chatbot gives me a small variation to the answers or gives me a little range, that's okay. I as a candidate can accept that. Maybe the chatbot doesn't tell me whether my retirement is matched or not matched by the company, but it does say that there are options, then I already know some things. And if the chatbot were to tell me very transparently that, look, I can't really do anything with the application, I'm also not doing scheduling for the interviews, but I am your benefit chatbot, and you want to ask me about what holidays we have, how many days of vacation we allow, I can answer. Then I think it's helpful. So my answer would be just around the 80/20. And again, you get to choose the 80 by giving the context of the agent, the chatbot, to the candidate, so the candidate can remain within the confines of within the boundaries that you are establishing. There's another question as well from Kevin. I think the question is, what will AI assisted hiring do routinely that feels hard today, and what must always stay human? I have a simple answer to this one. That's a framework answer, not even to this question, but a simple framework answer is that for almost any organization, you can see what are other customers, other competitors or other peers to them that are doing. They are 2 years ahead that they are not doing themselves. And that usually is an answer to that question, that what are other people doing that feels hard to me today? Other people are already doing it. And what must always stay human? I think when we look at this candidate journey here, a large part of the scheduling is very boring, it's very tedious, is very routine. Initial data collection, resume parsing, resume, this thing here, already gone to AI. Very little chance it's going to move any other way. It's only going to become better. Scheduling is going to remain with AI. But the part that remains human still is that decisioning on, can we take this candidate and incorporate them into our organization and have them be their best, that be the best opportunity for the candidate to learn, grow, deliver, as well as for the organization. That part I feel has to remain human, because ultimately it's a human who is responsible from the receiving angle. So there's reason to believe that that should remain human.
Well answered, Amrinder. Well answered. Looking at what others are doing, but also deciding for yourself what it says that you would like for the candidate to experience, and looking at what's tedious and how you can use AI to make that to improve that and make that even lighter. My favorite phrase, and I don't know the source, but the one often said, using technology to solve the process conversation, so that, or the process part of the process, the process part of the engagement, so that I can focus on what matters, humans. So I guess it's just deciding what your strategy is, what engagement strategy you want for your candidates, and seeing what part of it you want to say uniquely human, and and use that as a selling proposition for your organization. But it would be great to hear what others think on the call, on this webinar as well. What do you think must, and the emphasis is on the must from Kevin. What must always stay human, must always stay human. And Winifred, it's up again, Winifred. Unmute yourself, or Amrita, I think you have to unmute her so that we can hear her valuable addition.
Now, Winifred,
Yeah. So I totally agree with you, Doreen, on what you just said. And I think the process, part of the process that can be systemized, the AI can absolutely handle that bit, so that we can focus on the parts that the human face has to like take over and handle. And if AI takes over that aspect, we um, end up being more effective and more efficient in our like discharge of all these duties and achieving our strategic goals and objectives. So I totally agree. And then also on the bit where we want AI to have a personality, I'm so 100% on board for that bit as well. Especially with giving feedback, so that once the candidate or the person being engaged makes a submission or asks questions, the feedback makes the person understand that the AI actually heard what you said and understands the submission that you gave. So then you know that you're actually communicating and not just talking to some robot or something. You know that what you are saying is being heard. So yeah, that's my uh, uh, submission on that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Winifred. Thank you.
So it seems that that part is clear, that there's a certain part that should remain human. I think overall, if we keep our focus on explainable human guided AI, as we all say that the best systems are hybrid, AI plus human. You cannot lose one or the other. You should definitely use the efficiency that's provided by AI, but keep the human touch. So if we are able to do that, I think then the organization has significant advantage compared to one that simply did not make use of all the AI available resources to them here. I mean, overall, I think together we can all, if we all think about this thing, we can shape the future. If we continue to think about the candidate experience, right? The CX here, the candidate experience is, if the candidate can feel, okay, I applied, I was getting more robust communication from the recruiter or from the organization, my application kept on moving, and even if they do not get selected, they are still going to take away a very positive outcome from that particular interaction, versus somebody who, even if they do get a offer letter for 4 weeks later, they're like, well, thanks, but I'm already somewhere else now. So I think it's up to us to shape that part of the recruiting future together here.
I agree. Totally agree on that. Totally. Define what experience you want the candidates to have, and then design a process to suit the experience that you're thinking of, and improve on it daily. I believe that defining is just one phase or one step of that journey. Having a mindset to constantly go back and improve on what you already do well, I believe is valuable to maintaining a positive candidate experience over and over again.
I
Let's
think,
shift.
Doreen, we went through that 50 minutes very, very, very quickly. So I just want to thank everyone and give them a couple of minutes back to run to their next meetings or grab lunch or dinner, whatever is next for them. But thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Winifred, for your contributions as well. You were able to join us and help everyone. And thank you, everyone. And Doreen, any final words for the attendees who joined us today?
I guess for me, it's the fact that AI has come to stay. I read an article a few years ago that said how people fought and demonstrated when the knitting machine was first introduced. So as HRDs, as talent practitioners, it's important that we adopt and incorporate it into how we do things. And it's pointless fighting it. It's here to stay. But let's remain human in the process. Thank you, Amrinder. Thank you, everyone, for joining as well.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great rest of the day ahead. We'll sign off and see you guys again in the next webinar, okay? Thank you, everyone.